Hi.
So I'm currently working on a video about a certain franchise that Michael Bay is heavily involved with, but I wanted to take a quick break and talk about a different film that he directed that often gets overlooked, 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. It's based on a true story about a group of soldiers who were trapped in a compound in Benghazi who were cut off from their allies as enemies circled around them, and their story of survival. This was released in January 2016, in between Transformers 4 and 5, but unlike his other films, there wasn't a huge amount of discussion or attention given to it. Hell, it's actually Michael Bay's lowest grossing film, breaking in just under $70 million on a $50 million budget. And the only discussion I saw online at the time were people rolling their eyes that Bay directed another military movie based off an actual event, as well as the fact that he would be adapting another true story. And considering how he handled Pain and Gain, some were wondering if he could actually do the story of these soldiers justice. Because if you didn't know, Pain and Gain is about a group of bodybuilders who kidnap and torture this rich guy and hold him for ransom. But the events of the movie is played out to be pretty comedic, and with it being a pretty recent event, the victim's family were still alive, so many saw the movie's portrayal of these events pretty tasteless. So between that and Pearl Harbor, I understand why many people weren't looking forward to this, and why they just blew it off. But I honestly feel that those people missed out on something pretty good here, because I can say without a doubt that this was Michael Bay actually trying. This was a genuine and honest attempt to tell the story as serious as he could. I've always seen Bay as a director who doesn't really care what others think, and he puts shit on screen that he likes or he thinks is cool. I see his style as loud, in-your-face, mindless fun, like a teenager jacked up on Mountain Dew and Red Bull. You get crude, awkward humor, lots of low-angle and slow-mo shots, hot chicks, and explosions. This is the stuff he's known for putting in his films, but in 13 Hours, he decides to pull back on all these things, and really it's the most mature movie he's ever made. It feels like he actually wanted to tell the story and give these soldiers justice. Now don't get me wrong, there are things in here that are clearly just Michael Bay, like the bright saturated colors, along with that lens flare. It has a very distinct look just like his other movies. And of course there's explosions, lots of explosions. And you get a couple of super close slow-mo shots. But the stuff like his crude, sexual, and awkward humor isn't present here. And instead the humor is changed to more playful banter between the soldiers. It seems like he's playing things as straight as he can to make it more believable. And for the most part I thought he did a good job. Now the one thing I really like about this movie is that it doesn't dive deep into the politics. The focus isn't on decisions that were made by political figures or those in power. Instead, it's from the point of view of the soldiers who were there and their perspectives. And when this happened, they were given very little information and had no idea exactly what was going on. And the goal is to make you feel the same way they felt when all the shit was going down. This is the soldiers' experiences and how they felt and what they went through. It's actually pretty unnerving because there are several times where they interact with locals and they don't know if they're an enemy or friendly. And then the local security that they hired are abandoning them. They don't know if the local police is on their side. And while all that is happening, there are many pedestrians and neighbors just living out their lives like normal, watching TV and hanging out, while all this chaos is happening nearby. And some seem to know more information about what's happening in the city than they do. And not to mention, all the help that they're radioing for isn't coming. So they're left out there, confused and alone. All the while, enemies start attacking them in waves. So these soldiers have no idea what's going on, and during the last hour of the movie, you feel the same way they do. You're not sure who's there to help or who's against them. And for the groups that do help them, you feel uneasy because you don't know if it's a trick. Everyone has guns, but they're not really pointed at them, or really using them. It's really nerve-wracking because you just don't know. You're basically on edge the whole time until it finally concludes, which is why I think it was very smart for them to focus on just the soldiers' point of view, to put you in their shoes so you know how they felt. It's a very good decision. That's why I think the second half of this movie is really effective, because that's when the shit hits the fan and they have to defend the compound. Now for how great that stuff is, it's not a perfect movie. For example, there's a lot of shaky cam and quick cuts, mainly in the first half, and that shit gets annoying. Also, I feel like they could have shaved parts of the movie down in the first hour, because it's a little over 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and all the best stuff happens in the second half, while the first is just a lot of setup. So the first 45 minutes or so of this movie kind of drags, and there's just a lot of little stuff that they could have cut out to save some time. Also, I didn't find many of the characters that memorable, and I honestly don't really remember any of their names. I remember at least 2 or 3 of them. Overall, I found most of them to be your typical American soldier types. And it's a shame because these are all real people, and the movie wants you to get invested in them, because they touch on all the main guys' backstories, mentioning their families and life back home, but I really couldn't get hooked into most of them. And I think the acting itself was fine, it's just not many of them stood out to me. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about 13 Hours because it always stuck out to me amongst Michael Bay films. He pulls back on his Michael Bay-isms and gives a genuine attempt to tell a more serious and grounded story and pay respects to those involved. It's probably the most mature movie he's ever made, and I respect him for switching it up when approaching the story. I just been in the midst of rewatching a bunch of Michael Bay films, so I figured it was good a time as any to talk about this one. Whenever there's a discussion about Bay, this one always gets overlooked, so I felt that it was worth mentioning even for a moment. But anyway guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, go and drop a like on it, and leave a comment, let me know what you think about 13 Hours. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Optimus, all I ever wanted was for you to say the N-word. I see why you had to switch political sides. But before you kill me, I have one last request. Say the N-word. I will say it. That's not the word! Stop! Stop!